twin suns of planet Veltrax hung low in the sky, casting golden light over the jagged rock formations and strange purple plants. The air was dry and quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. In a small metal workshop on the edge of the Veltraxian mining colony, a human named Jace wiped sweat from his forehead. His hands were covered in grease and his shirt had holes from too many repairs. Jace was not a soldier, not a leader, not a scientist. He was just a mechanic. He had come to Veltrax 3 years ago to escape the noise of Earth and live a quiet life fixing things, and that's exactly what he did until today. There was a knock at the door, not a soft one, it was heavy. Like something large was standing outside. Jace wiped his hands and opened the door. Standing in front of him was a tall alien, 8 feet tall, skin like stone, armor carved with glowing lines. 2 bright yellow eyes stared down at Jace. It was Baron Kirzak, a high-ranking noble of the Veltraxian Empire. Jace had seen him only once before, during the mining tunnel collapse when he had helped pull the Baron's son out before the gas exploded. "Human," the Baron said in a deep voice. "Your actions saved my blood. A life for a life." Jace raised an eyebrow. "I didn't do it for a reward." "Still," the Baron continued, stepping aside, "a gift must be given." Behind him stood 2 guards. Between them was a large metal box, almost the size of a coffin. It was dark gray with glowing blue lines running across it. Strange symbols were carved into the surface. It didn't look like something from the market. It looked alive. The Baron gestured to it. "It is yours." Jace stepped forward, unsure. "What is it?" "Open it," the Baron said, "and you shall see." The guards placed the box inside the workshop and left without a word. The Baron gave one last nod and walked away. Jace stood there alone, staring at the box as the door slid shut. He took a deep breath, picked up a wrench and slowly pried open the lid. With a hiss of air, the seal broke. The top lifted slowly. Inside was a girl. She was sitting quietly, her arms wrapped around her knees. Her skin was pale blue, glowing faintly. Her eyes were large and silver, blinking slowly. She wore a thin silver dress, and her white hair flowed like silk around her shoulders. She looked up at him, confused, but not afraid. Jace stepped back, in shock. "What the hell?" The girl tilted her head. "Are you my new master?" Her voice was soft, like a whisper in the wind. "No," Jace said quickly. "I'm not anyone's master. What is this?" The girl looked around the workshop. "I was told I belong to you now, as a gift." Jace's mouth went dry. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. She wasn't an object. She wasn't a machine. She was alive, and she had just been given to him like a tool. "This has to be some kind of mistake," he said. She shook her head gently. "No mistake. I was created in the breeding chambers. I was trained to serve. When my creators told me I was to be sent to a human, I thought I would be eaten." Jace blinked. "Eaten?" She nodded. "Humans are said to be wild, dangerous. You live with emotion, not logic, but you do not seem cruel." "I'm not cruel," Jace said, slowly sitting down on a stool across from her. "And I don't need a servant or a slave." The girl looked away, unsure of what to say. A long silence passed between them. Finally, Jace sighed. "What's your name?" "They called me Lyra." "Okay, Lyra, I'm Jace. And I'm not going to treat you like property. You're free to leave if you want." Lyra's silver eyes locked with his. "Free?" Jace nodded. She stood slowly, her thin frame shaky but graceful. She walked around the workshop, touching tools, blinking at engines. Then she returned to the box and sat back down inside it. "I don't know where to go," she said. "I've never been outside this crate before. If I leave, I will not survive." Jace looked at her, his chest tightening with a strange feeling. He didn't ask for this, but she was here now, alone, scared, and maybe in need of someone who would see her as more than a gift. "You can stay here," he said gently. "But not as my servant, just as a guest." Lyra nodded slowly. "I understand." As the two sat in silence, the workshop lights flickered once. Outside, above the clouds, a small satellite blinked red. A signal had been sent from the box the moment it opened. Someone knew Lyra had awakened and they were coming. That night, the winds on planet Veltrax howled like whispers from the stars. Inside the workshop, Jace couldn't sleep. He kept looking at the small figure curled up on a blanket in the corner. Lyra. She hadn't moved much since he gave her space to rest. She looked peaceful, like a statue carved from blue light. But Jace's mind was not at peace. He turned in his bed, staring at the ceiling. Why would someone gift a living girl? Why would a noble like Baron Kurzak give her away so easily? Something wasn't right. Suddenly, a soft sound broke the silence, a quiet hum. Jace sat up, alert. The sound was coming from the far corner where the crate had been placed. He walked toward it, slow and careful. Lyra was awake. Her silver eyes were open, glowing slightly in the dim light. And her back was glowing, too. "Lyra?" Jace said gently. "Are you okay?" She looked at him, then lowered her head. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't," he replied. "What's that on your back? Is that normal?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached behind her neck and pressed something near her spine. A soft beep came from under her skin. She winced in pain, but stayed still. Jace saw it now. Under her hair, between her shoulder blades, was a small metal implant glowing red. His heart sank. "What is that?" "A command node," she said quietly. "It connects me to them." "Who's them?" Lyra sat up straight. Her voice was calm, but something behind it trembled. "The ones who built me, the ones who trained me. They use this to control me if I disobey." Jace took a step closer, trying not to sound angry. "They can control you? From where?" "Anywhere," she whispered. "If they want me to?" "Sleep, I sleep. If they want me to speak, I speak. I can feel them listening when the node is active. I feel like a puppet." Jace clenched his fists. "And the Baron gave you to me like this? Without saying a word?" Lyra nodded. "I thought maybe it was over. Maybe you would be different." Jace took a deep breath and knelt beside her. "I am different and I'm going to help you, but we need to figure out what that thing is doing and who's watching." Suddenly, Lyra grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with fear. "They already know," she whispered. Jace froze. She pointed at the crate. The moment it opened, the node woke up. It sent a signal. "To where?" "I don't know," she said. "But someone is watching us right now." Jace stood and walked toward the crate, opening a panel near the base. Inside, he found a hidden device, small, black, and blinking red. "A tracker," he muttered. "And maybe more." Without thinking, he ripped it out and crushed it under his boot. Sparks flew. For a moment, everything went still. Lyra gasped suddenly and held her head. Her eyes flickered like broken lights. "Lyra!" She collapsed to her knees. Her skin shimmered, glowing bright blue before fading to a dull gray. Her breathing was sharp, fast, and shallow. "It's fighting me," she cried. "The node, it's angry." Jace rushed to her side, catching her before she hit the floor. She was hot to the touch, almost burning. "I need to shut it off," she whispered, "before it burns my brain." Jace shook his head. "No, don't talk like that. There's gotta be a way." She looked up at him with tired eyes. "I was made to obey. But I don't want to be a gift anymore. I want to live." Something in those words struck Jace harder than any explosion ever could. She didn't ask for freedom. She begged for a chance to live her own life. And in that moment, he made a promise. He wouldn't let her suffer under someone else's control. Not on his watch. He lifted her gently and carried her to the workbench. With shaking hands, he gathered tools, wires, and scanners. He had taken Apart engines, ships, and drones, but never a living being. Still, he had to try. I'm going to scan that implant, he said. We'll find a way to disable it. Lyra managed a weak smile. Thank you, Jace. He began scanning her spine, and the screen blinked with strange alien code. The implant wasn't just a tracker. It was connected to a system far away, and to a memory vault buried deep inside her. Jace stared at the screen. Lyra, this thing is storing data. Her voice was fading. What kind of data? Jace narrowed his eyes. I don't know, but it's locked, like military encryption, maybe even worse. Suddenly, the screen blinked red. Intrusion. Detected outside, above the clouds of Veltrax, a ship turned its nose toward the surface. Someone had seen too much, and they were coming fast. The scanner screen flashed warnings in alien code, bright and red. Jace's hands hovered over the console, frozen. He had spent years fixing machines, starships, even drones. But this wasn't just a system. This was Lyra. She lay still on the workbench, her pale blue skin glowing faintly. The implant on her back blinked like a ticking bomb. Her silver eyes were half open and sweat dripped down her temples. She looked fragile, human almost, but the reading said something very different. She's more than she looks, Jace whispered to himself. Much more. The scan showed layers of tech fused with her nervous system. Beneath her skin were fine wires coiled around muscle like spider silk. Her heart wasn't fully organic. It was reinforced with an energy core. And worst of all, something inside her brain was encrypted, locked tight with codes Jace didn't recognize. Why would a Baron gift someone like this? He muttered. He tried to scan deeper, but the moment he pushed past the surface firewall, the implant pulsed violently. Lyra cried out, her body jolting. No, stop, she gasped. It hurts. Jace immediately shut down the scanner. Her breathing slowed, but her skin flickered with small electric sparks. She gripped the edge of the table, barely conscious. I'm sorry, Jace whispered. I didn't know it would do that. Lyra shook her head weakly. It's not your fault. It's in me. Every time someone tries to access it, it punishes me. Jace knelt beside her. Lyra, you're not just some gift. You were made for something dangerous. What did they do to you? Her eyes welled up. I don't know. I wasn't told anything. They trained me in obedience, in etiquette, in languages, and pain tolerance. Jace clenched his fists. Pain tolerance? She nodded. Every time I disobeyed, they activated the node. My body would freeze. My vision would blur. It was like dying without dying. Jace stood, heart pounding. You said the Baron gave you to me to hide you. Why? I don't know, she whispered. But I think they were afraid. Afraid of you? No, Lyra replied. Afraid of what I might remember. Those words chilled Jace to the bone. He looked back at the scan. The encrypted data wasn't just memory. It was suppressed memory. Pieces of her past had been locked away, likely because they were too dangerous to be known. Suddenly the console blinked again. Code initiated. Memory seal failure imminent. A low hum began to rise from Lyra's body. Her skin glowed bright blue. Her spine arched. She began whispering something in a strange language. Lyra, Jace shouted. What's happening? Her voice echoed, two-toned, not fully her own. I see them. The ships. Fire in the sky. Screams. Running. Her body convulsed violently, and Jace rushed to hold her steady. But he felt something more. Power. Her skin burned hot. Her hair lifted like static. The implant on her back glowed bright white, then suddenly turned black as if something inside it had died. Lyra collapsed unconscious. Jace held her, breathing fast. What the hell are you? Suddenly a deep thud shook the ground. Tools rattled off the walls. Another thud. And then a third. Jace ran to the window. In the distance, over the sand dunes, Lights fell from the sky. No, not lights. Dropships. 3 black shapes landed near the edge of the canyon. They didn't carry banners. They weren't Veltraxian military, no markings, no signals. Just silence. And then, shadows emerged. Tall, armored, and moving straight toward Jace's workshop. Jace grabbed a pulse rifle from under his workbench. He hadn't used it in years, but his fingers remembered the weight. He turned back to Lyra. She was still breathing, but her body was limp. The implant looked dead, but he wasn't sure for how long. Jace knew one thing. Whoever was coming, they weren't here to rescue her. He knelt beside her and whispered, "I don't know what they did to you, Lyra, but I won't let them take you back." As the wind howled outside, the shadows grew larger, and deep inside Lyra's mind something old had awakened. A vision, a planet burning, an army kneeling. A voice screaming, "Protect the catalyst, at any cost." The wind outside howled louder now, kicking sand against the metal walls of the workshop. Jace stood near the window, gripping his old pulse rifle tightly. His heart pounded. His eyes locked on the shadows moving closer. Dark figures, tall and armored, walking with perfect precision. They didn't walk like soldiers. They moved like machines. Silent. Cold. Efficient. Inside, Lyra was still unconscious on the workbench. Her skin had stopped glowing, and the implant on her back was dark. Dead for now. But Jace wasn't sure how long that would last. Or what would happen if it woke again. A strange feeling hit him. Not fear, something sharper. Responsibility. He hadn't asked for her. He didn't want to be anyone's master. But now she was here. Broken. Lost. And hunted. He wasn't going to let them take her. The outer sensor beeped. Perimeter breach. Distance, 80 meters. Jace stepped away from the window and shut off the workshop lights. Shadows swallowed the room. Only the soft sound of Lyra's breathing filled the space. He pressed a button near the doorway. A steel wall slid into place, sealing the front entrance. Then he moved to the back, checking the emergency exit hatch. Just as he reached it, boom. The front door exploded inward, metal and fire flying through the air. Jace was thrown back into the wall. Sparks rained down. Smoke filled the air. The blast nearly knocked him unconscious. Through the smoke, 3 figures stepped into the workshop. There, faces were covered in sleek helmets, glowing red lines across their visors. Black armor, no symbols, no names. Jace coughed and raised his weapon, still dazed. "Who the hell are you?" The lead figure didn't answer. Instead, he raised a flat device and scanned the room. Asset located. Lyra. Jace fired the pulse rifle without thinking. The first shot hit the wall beside the figure's head. The second was blocked by a glowing energy shield. The third hit one of the side intruders, knocking him down, but not out. "Do not resist," said the lead figure. His voice was mechanical. "The asset is property of Division Null." "I don't care who you are," Jace growled. "She's not your property." The figure aimed a weapon at him. "You are not authorized to intervene." But before he could shoot, something happened. A sharp humming sound filled the room. The implant on Lyra's back blinked once, then glowed bright gold. She opened her eyes, and the world changed. Her body lifted off the table as if pulled by invisible hands. Her hair floated. Her eyes glowed white. She was no longer unconscious. She was activated. "Target locked," the invader's scanner said. But it was already too late. Lyra extended her hand. A wave of energy blasted from her palm, hitting all 3 intruders and throwing them backward into the wall like rag dolls. Sparks and armor flew in every direction. The room trembled. Jace crawled to her. "Lyra, are you okay?" She looked at him, but her voice was not the same. "Do not be afraid, Jace," she said in a voice layered with something ancient. "I remember now." "Remember what?" he asked. She touched her forehead. "The memories they tried to erase, the things they feared I would become. I am not just a girl, Jace. I was built to be a weapon of last resort. The Veltraxians called me Catalyst Alpha. Jace blinked. They made you for war? No, she whispered. They made me for control. But I broke free before they finished me. That's why they erased me. That's why they gave me to you. The second intruder rose and charged again, roaring. Lyra turned and raised her hand. This time, instead of force, a sharp sound cut the air, like breaking glass. The man screamed, dropping to his knees. His armor cracked from the inside out. He collapsed, twitching. Jace stared in shock. What did you just do? I told his body to stop, Lyra said simply. With frequency. The third intruder ran out the door. He didn't want to fight anymore. He just wanted to survive. But it was too late. Lyra stepped outside. The sky was dark now, the twin suns gone. And floating above them, a sleek black ship hovered, silent, deadly. She looked up. Her voice echoed. You wanted to erase me, but you failed. A beam of light shot down from the ship. Lyra raised her arms. The energy bent around her like a shield. She didn't move. Inside, Jace could barely breathe. Then silence. The ship retreated. It ran. Lyra walked back into the workshop, her glow fading. Her breathing slowed. She sat down on the floor and looked at Jace. I'm sorry you got involved, she whispered. Jace knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You're not a weapon to me, Lyra, she smiled faintly. I'm not a gift either. No, Jace agreed. You're something else, something powerful. And I think they're not done with us yet. Outside, a red satellite blinked. Far away, deep in space, someone watched, and someone was angry. Morning never really arrived on planet Veltrax. It only softened. The suns rose behind the storm clouds, casting dull orange light over the quiet desert. Inside the half-destroyed workshop, Jace sat beside Lyra in silence. The night had changed. Everything, the way she moved, the way her eyes turned white, the raw power that came from her body like a storm. She wasn't just some girl in a box anymore. She was something made, but something fighting what she was made to be. Lyra sat on the floor with a blanket over her shoulders. Her knees were pulled to her chest. She looked like a child, but Jace knew better now. Her eyes had seen war. Her mind held secrets, and her heart was full of pain. They're going to come again, she whispered without looking up. Jace nodded. I know. They won't stop this time. They'll bring something worse, a disruptor class or a kill order. He stood and poured her some warm liquid from a tin pot. It wasn't much, but it helped. Then we don't wait for them. We find a way to end it before they do. Lyra took the cup but didn't drink. Her fingers trembled. I was built to follow every command, but now that I'm free, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be anything else. You're already something else, Jace said. You chose to protect me. That's not programming. That's you. She gave a soft smile, then her eyes drifted to the broken scanner lying nearby. I want the implant removed, she said quietly. All of it. I want it out. Jace looked at her surprised. Lyra, that could kill you. I know, she said. But if I leave it inside, they can always find me, control me, force me to hurt others. I don't want to live like a weapon anymore. He sat beside her. We'll find a way, carefully, not rushed. She turned to him. I don't want careful, I want free. There was something in her voice, not anger, not fear, just truth. She had spent her whole life inside walls, first inside a box, then inside rules, then inside her own mind, where memories had been locked and stolen. And now she was ready to break every cage, even if it killed her. Jace finally nodded. I know a guy, old alien engineer named Balak. Used to work on cyborg tech deep in the underzones. He disappeared after the last rebellion, but He owes me a favor. Will he help? Jace smirked. He hates anything with a control chip. If you tell him your story, he might rip the xiao implant out with his teeth. Lyra laughed for the first time. It was soft, unsure, but real. They left the workshop that afternoon, walking through the edge of the canyon toward the hidden tunnels below. Lyra wore a long cloak, hood up. Jace carried a satchel of tools and a pulse pistol hidden beneath. As they walked, Lyra looked at the sky. "Do you think I'm dangerous?" she asked. Jace didn't answer right away. Then he said, "You have power, but power isn't the same as danger." "What's the difference?" "Danger is when someone uses power without a soul. You have a soul, Lyra. That's the difference." She stared ahead, thoughtful. After a few hours, they reached the underzone. It was a forgotten part of Veltrax. Dark tunnels filled with glowing fungus and leftover tech from wars no one remembered. Strange machines blinked in the shadows. They passed robots half buried in dirt, and once, a sleeping beast with too many teeth. Finally, they reached a small metal door built into the wall. Jace knocked 3 times, then 2, then 1. The door opened. A hunched alien with mechanical arms and a bright red eye glared at them. "You brought me a death wish, human?" "She wants to be free," Jace said. "She wants the chip out." Balak sniffed the air. "Control implant. Gen 7 hybrid model. Rare. Deadly to remove. Beautiful." Lyra stepped forward. "Can you do it?" The old alien studied her, blinking. Then he nodded slowly. "Yes, but if I fail, you die." "I understand," she said. Balak gestured them inside. That night, the small lab was lit with pale blue light. Lyra lay on the table, calm but pale. Jace stood beside her, holding her hand. "Are you sure?" he asked. She looked into his eyes. "If I die, I want to die me. Not their tool, not their puppet. Just Lyra." And then the machine whirred to life. Wires moved. Lights blinked. Sparks danced in the air. As the drill lowered toward her spine, Lyra closed her eyes and whispered, "I'm not a weapon, not anymore." The old lab smelled of oil and burning wires. Sparks jumped between broken lights above. Strange alien tools hung on the walls like bones in a forgotten museum. It was here, deep under the Veltraxian ground, that a girl was trying to become something no one expected. Free Lyra lay on the cold table, lay on the cold. Her back was exposed, the metal implant glowing like a buried star. Her breath was steady, but her fingers twitched. Her face was calm, but inside, a storm waited. Jace stood next to her, heart pounding. He held her hand. It felt warm, alive, but also unstable, like touching a storm right before it breaks. The old alien engineer Balak adjusted his cracked goggles and leaned closer to the implant. His long fingers, part organic and part machine, moved carefully across her spine. "This chip," he grunted, "was never meant to be removed. It's tied to her bones, her nerves, her memories." "Can you do it?" Jace asked, voice tight. Balak growled, "I can do anything. The question is, should I?" Jace looked at Lyra. She was whispering something under her breath. Not words, just soft sounds. Maybe a prayer, maybe a memory. "She wants this," Jace said. "She's not theirs anymore." Balak grunted again and powered up his tool. It hummed with a soft silver light. "Then prepare for fire, human. Because once I start, nothing will be quiet again." The tool touched the implant. Lyra arched her back. Her eyes shot open, glowing white with energy, and then the screaming began. Inside her mind, Lyra wasn't in the lab anymore. She was back in the pod, cold, alone, her body floating in dark blue liquid. Lights blinked around her. Voices, mechanical and cruel, echoed in her ears. Asset 04C online. Memory suppression complete. Begin obedience protocol. She screamed in silence, but no one heard. Until now. As the tool burned through the implant's shell, Her memories surged back. She saw her first day of training. They zapped her when she cried. They punished her when she asked questions. They told her she was not real, just a design, a function, a product. She saw other girls like her, younger, older. Some vanished, others broken. She had been the only one to survive the full process. The only success. Her fingers clenched. Her voice shook. No more. Outside, the lab began to rumble. Machines blinked erratically. Wires sparked. A humming sound rose, deep and loud like thunder trapped in a bottle. Balak shouted, "She's rejecting the node. Her body's flooding with raw energy." Jace held her down as her skin flashed between soft blue and bright white. "Hold on, Lyra. You're not alone." Suddenly, every machine in the lab exploded in blue light. The implant cracked. A pulse burst from Lyra's spine, pure energy, glowing and sharp. It hit the walls, shook the floor, and launched Balak backward. The light escaped through the vents, the ground, the air, and it shot upward, into the sky. In orbit above Veltrax, a black battleship drifted silently. Inside, commanders stared at their screens. "Sir, there's been a surge from Sector 19. "What kind of surge?" "Unknown. Power signature matches. Catalyst Alpha." The commander turned pale. "Impossible." She was deactivated. No longer. Back in the lab, Lyra gasped. The implant burned away into dust, sizzling on the metal table. Smoke filled the room. Her body went still. "Lyra?" Jace called. No response. He ran to her side, grabbed her shoulders, and shouted again. "Lyra!" She blinked. Slowly, her silver eyes opened. She looked at him and smiled. "It's gone," she whispered. "I feel it. It's really gone." Jace broke into a laugh and hugged her tightly. "You did it. You're okay." "I'm not a weapon anymore," she said. "No," Jace replied. "You never were. You just forgot who you really are." Far away, on the black battleship, a quiet voice spoke through the silence. "Prepare the purge fleet. She's active and uncontrolled." The stars outside dimmed as hundreds of warships turned their engines toward Veltrax. Because when the galaxy saw what had just awakened, they didn't see a girl, they saw a threat. Veltrax's skies were no longer silent. Above the dusty clouds, black warships moved like shadows, blocking out the light from the twin suns. The galaxy had sent its judgment, not for war, not for peace, but for erasure. At the center of it, all in a broken lab beneath the canyon skin, a girl sat on the edge of a table, feeling her own heartbeat for the first time. No buzzing in her spine, no distant voice in her head, no metal forcing her limbs, just breath, just light, just herself. Lyra looked at her fingers like they were new. She opened and closed her hands. She blinked slowly. Then her eyes turned toward Jace, who stood at the entrance of the lab holding a scanner with a trembling hand. "They're here," he said quietly. 30 ships, maybe more. Lyra didn't look afraid. She looked calm. "They won't ask questions," she said. "They'll come to erase me before I can think, before I can choose." Jace walked up beside her. "Then maybe we show them your choice before they even land." Balak, bruised and coughing from the blast earlier, leaned on the wall. "You two are crazy," he wheezed. "And I like it. I've got an old signal tower. I can boost a broadcast." Jace turned to Lyra. "Are you ready to speak to the stars?" Lyra smiled, tired, soft, but free. "I've been silent my whole life. Let's make them listen." An hour later, the signal went live. Across the warships in orbit, screens and comms cracked to life. Officers barked orders, trying to shut the feed down, but it was too late. A voice, soft, clear, and powerful, rang through every deck. "My name is Lyra. You called me Catalyst Alpha. You built me in glass tanks. You carved control into my spine. You locked away my memories. You made me a prisoner in my own skin. But I broke your chains. I am not your weapon. I am not your machine. I am not your property. I am a person, and I choose to live." Silence followed. Then alarms. The ships charged their weapons. But just before the command to fire could be given, another signal joined hers. "This is Jace Weller, human, civilian, engineer. Lyra didn't ask for this war, you did. If you kill her, you prove everything she said was true, that your empire fears its own creations more than it values life. But if you let her live, maybe you prove something better." The fleet paused. Back on the ground, Lyra stood on the highest rock, the wind pulling at her cloak. Her eyes looked to the sky, where tiny lights blinked in the clouds. Jace walked up beside her. "If they shoot, we won't feel much," she smiled. "That's comforting. But if they don't," he added, "the galaxy will change." A few minutes passed. Nothing happened. Then, from above, the largest ship shifted. Its guns powered. Down. Slowly. One by one. The warships turned. They didn't speak. They simply left. They left her alive. Lyra's knees gave out. She sat in the dust, tears falling silently. Not from fear, not from pain, from relief. Jace dropped beside her and pulled her into a hug. "You did it," he whispered. "You made them see you." "No," she said, shaking. "You made me see me." Weeks passed. The story spread across colonies like fire. The girl who refused to obey. Some feared her. Some worshipped her. Most wanted to meet her. But Lyra didn't chase fame. She chose a quiet home on Veltrax's edge, near the stars, near the wind. With Jace, she planted alien flowers, learned to cook, built small machines that purred like cats, and for the first time she dreamed. Not programmed dreams, real ones. In one of those dreams, she stood on a hill, holding a star in her hand. It wasn't burning her. It was hers. Years later, someone asked her, "How did it feel, knowing you were created by others, trained to kill, and then told you had no choice?" Lyra smiled. "I didn't choose how I began, but I chose who I became."